완전 하얗고 막 되게 순백이 약간.
Hello? Hello?
Hi, my name is Estrella and welcome to my channel where I talk about social issues, the media, and sometimes myself. The past week I've been pretty bored, so I needed something to pass the time, and one of my guilty pleasures is watching reality TV shows. So when I saw on TikTok that there's this new Korean show on Netflix called Singles Inferno, I thought that I would watch it. My first impression is, well, by panic. And then I was like, there's a lot of red flags in here. And the first time around, I did not notice them. So yeah, it was only in hindsight when I realized there were so many red flags throughout the show, starting from the very first episode. I know the show isn't that deep, it is just a reality TV show, but since I like overanalyzing things, today you're gonna be doing it with me. And before I get any comments about, oh, colorism isn't just in Korea, yes, I know that I've made videos related to this topic before about other ethnicities. I just thought that since Single Infernos is getting popular, I might as well use it as an opportunity to talk about colorism, especially among Koreans and their beauty standards. Also, I know that in my last video, I said that I'm not gonna change my looks that much this year, but my eczema is flaring up, hence the glasses. So from the very first episode, there was already a scene where the men were making inappropriate comments about her having really pale skin and correlating that to being pure.
걸어오시는데 와 처음에 완전 하얗고 막 되게 순백이 약간 그런 느낌이었다면
진짜 하얘니까 저는 원래 그런 좀 피부가 하얀 톤인 사람을 좋아하거든요. 그러면
저한테 티셨네요.
Not only did these men make these inappropriate comments about the skin tone and purity, which have absolutely no correlation, but the fact that these producers thought that it was okay to include this in the final cut also goes to show how normalized it is, and it shows how the media perpetuates the problems with the Korean beauty standard and the colorist values embedded in it. And in episode 5, Ewon made a comment about Sumin's skin.
예쁜 거 같아. 진짜. 와, 진짜 배고프다.
This one isn't necessarily inappropriate. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I do think that it goes to show how much the women admired other women for having fair skin and related that to attractiveness. And since they were doing that and the men were also doing the same thing, it essentially reflects like the hierarchy that is created between people who have different skin tones even within the same ethnicity group. And I think because this is a dating show, it becomes more prominent than maybe other types of media, because like the men would base women's attractiveness partly off of skin tones, and then the women's popularity is based off of how many men are attracted to them. So ultimately, skin tones, or rather having fair skin, is this form of cultural capital. And then moving on to episode 6, again, this is not inappropriate, but I found this relevant to the topic for sure, which is when Jia describes the tanned guy Hyun Sung as sexy.
첫인상이 어땠어요?
뭐 첫인상?
알고 있던
섹시. 여자들이 오빠 엄청 좋아할 것 같아.
나?
섹시잖아, 되게.
어떻게 해야 밀고 나갈 수 있겠나요?
어? 그냥 이렇게 있으면 섹시한데?
차가워 보인다 그러고 무섭다는 얘기 많이 들어.
아, 좀 약간 인상이 무섭긴 하지.
I think he is for sure sexy, he's hot, he has tattoos. But it's interesting because in Korea, if you follow like Korean pop culture at all, you'll notice celebrities with paler skin tones are perceived as being pure, innocent, as in the first example I talked about. And then those with tanned skin and darker skin tones who are still Korean would be considered sexy, especially if they're, say, in a K-pop group the person with darker skin tone would help build the sex appeal of the whole entire K-pop group. And that's a way for the companies to capitalize off of these people's appearances, because otherwise people with tan skin would be associated with negative connotations, and then they wouldn't be able to capitalize off of that. Since it's a reality TV show, we all know that it's scripted to a certain extent, and the cast is deliberately handpicked, and you can just see how each character is still reinforcing the stereotypes based on their skin tones. So let's talk about K-beauty, because K-beauty definitely reinforces colorism in Korea. For instance, the beauty standard there is very strict, as we can see in the show. Korea also has the highest ratio of plastic surgery clinics in the world, which is crazy. And I think that's why it's so normal for Koreans to permanently change how they look. And many products like foundations and concealers, they don't have that many shades, which is kind of sus, considering that K-beauty is pretty popular in Western societies as well, so they should definitely expand their shades. Because of the lack of variety, people also tend to use lighter shades on their skin, and that's part of the makeup routine, to make their skin look lighter. And if you remember a few years back, there was this trend of making your skin look glassy, and part of it is to make it look pale. Besides all this, the skin whitening industry is huge there. I couldn't find a specific number for it, but in Asia overall, the industry is 7.5 billion. That's a lot. And I'm not talking about products that are like foundation that make your skin look lighter. No, these are products that contain ingredients that interfere with melanin production. So people are buying these products to change like the chemistry within their bodies. And you might notice that in K-beauty products that are relating to changing skin tones and making your skin look good, all these things, they usually in their advertisements would say things like recover, rejuvenate, repair, prevent. And these words are deliberately used so that people feel like having fair skin is related to naturalness, and that having light skin is normal while having darker skin tones is not. Using beauty products to have fair skin is also marketed as like finding your inner beauty, reflecting your inner beauty outwards, and allowing people to feel like they're in control of their bodies by changing their skin tone, or not really changing. That's not usually what they say. They say that you're reverting back to what your skin tone's supposed to be. I think there's a postman coming, and I'm filming right in front of the window, so oh, that was weird because he waited for me to get my package. Anyways, and the reason why I also thought this was important to talk about, and it's not just about the beauty standard, is because the Korean beauty standard relates to colorism, and then colorism is relevant to classism and racism. And this is very much tied to the history in Korea. For example, in the long tradition of Korean shamanism, I hope I pronounced that right, a person of white skin is respected. It was believed that the first superhuman born was white. And this is partly why people with fairer skin are seen as more noble. Even back in the Goryeo dynasty, children would wash their faces with peach flower water to make their skin clean and white. And girls, before they got married, would also care a lot about keeping their skin white. And then more historical context, lighter skin is again tied very much to Korean social status. And this is especially important for women because for Korean men, it was seen as, okay, whatever, like you go out to work a lot. You're like providers, cool. But then women were expected to have no blemishes, to prove their beauty and their virtue. And that is why it's related to classism. There was a time in the past where people who had more money could study indoors and therefore have lighter skin, but then people who have darker skin are usually those who have lower income and have to work outdoors and possibly work in farms and do hard labor. And because skin tones, part of it is genetics, favoring people with lighter skin tones and using that as a beauty standard is essentially including people who have more wealth and excluding those who do not have that privilege. And this would make people in lower classes want to look richer by having lighter skin tones, because skin tone became associated with high social status, being noble. For women, it also is correlated with femininity, purity, all these things. Like, imagine if these people, Koreans with darker skin tones, meaning they just look tanned, they're seen differently than the Koreans with paler skin tones. And then how are other people of color seen in Korea? There is certainly a correlation to that. Like, for instance, if light skin tone is seen as pure, then it's basically implying that people with darker skin tones are not pure, they're possibly unhygienic and ran through. Like, literally the opposite. Which again, these are just reinforcing these biases based on skin tones, which can hurt a lot of people of color. And even just the people who have been watching this show have voiced that they don't feel that comfortable with these comments. I've seen some TikToks on this topic and some people have commented like, it's just how the Korean beauty standard is. Yeah, like that is the Korean beauty standard, but that's the whole problem, is that it shouldn't be that way. Even though historically pale skin was correlated with all these other characteristics, it doesn't mean that they should continue. How pale someone is shouldn't play a role in how attractive they are and like what their character is. And if someone says you're looking into this too deep, like colorism, it's not that deep, well, then why are you analyzing someone's skin tone, and like why are you using it to analyze and assume someone's character? Like, you're making it too deep. So then it kind of made me think about this question, which is it okay for someone to prefer a person with paler skin if they are the same ethnicity? And comment down below what you think of this question, like what your answer could be. But personally, I would say that it's definitely like an iffy thing. I don't think it should be a huge preference thing. Same with how people who are not Korean saying, oh my god, like I prefer dating a Korean. That's fetishization. Like, that shouldn't be a preference at all. I feel like that sort of idea applies to skin tone as well, even if it's just within the same ethnicity. Yeah, like personally, I don't care about skin tones, I don't think. My list of criteria in a partner is long. I recently just did this TikTok trend of listing out your standards, and I have like 100 and something. But not a single one is about someone's skin tone. Like, I have preferences on people's appearances. Yeah, like I'm not completely not shallow. But like, skin tone is not something I give a crap about. I have a hard time seeing how skin tone would matter in any context, to be honest. But I'm just gonna play it safe and say it depends. But most of the time, I would say it's iffy. Like, it just shouldn't matter. Maybe it's also because I live in Canada and I feel like the beauty standard here isn't so much on skin tones. There's like a lot more other things that people care about rather than just skin complexion. So maybe that's also why I don't understand. But I have lived in Hong Kong before for a while, and even then I never cared about it. Sometimes people would comment on my skin tone actually being like, wow, you're so pale, and be like, oh my god, you're so pretty. And same with how like people say, oh, you're Asian, or you look Asian, you're so pretty. Like, why do I have to have some sort of whiteness, whether that be my skin or inherently being white, to be considered attractive, you know? That's my take on it. So comment down below what you think. I feel like this video was all over the place, but hopefully after I edit it, it makes sense. My phone just died, so I'm just gonna quickly say bye. Comment down below what you thought of the whole video, and like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe down below for more videos like this. I make commentary videos every week. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later. Bye.
Hold on. Can we switch the language?
Dying on the